In this change, I would like to analyze the plot, the character, the symbolism, irony, conflict, themes, and the message of the story.
And for the first session is plot analysis. The exposition of this story is: in the beginning of story, there are children who are playing in the garden, which this garden belonged to the giant. After that, the giant came back from visiting his ogre friend.
We can find the exposition from the first until the third paragraph of the story. And then the rising action. When the giant saw there are children playing in his garden, and he kicked out those children from his garden, and he made a wall in order that those children cannot play in his garden again. And it is proven by this text. "What are you doing here?" he cried in very gruff voice, and the children ran away. "My own garden is my own garden," said the giant. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow nobody to play in it but myself." So he built a high wall all round it, and put up a notice board. And the climax is when the spring didn't happen in the giant's garden, whereas in the outside of his garden the weather was spring. And we can find it in the text. Then the spring came, and all over the country there were little blossoms and little birds. Only in the garden of the selfish giant it was still winter. And next, we enter to following action and resolution. The following action is: the giant realized that he was too selfish until the autumn didn't want to give a spring for his garden. And the resolution, because of that he knocked down the wall and let the children play in his garden. And I said that because of this text. Okay, for the next is about the characters. We know that there are two kinds of characters in the story. The first is major character, and the second is minor character. In this video, I only focus on the major character. There are two major characters in this story. There are: first is the giant, and the second is a little boy. And the first character is the giant. The reason I chose this character become the major character of the story because we know that the author is telling the story of this character. And the type of this character is round character. I said that because what he done same as what we do in real life, such his movement and his feeling. And it will grow just as the story goes. We know that in the beginning of story, the giant was very selfish person. But as the story goes, his heart was melted and let the children play in his garden again. And the second major character is a little boy. He has his type character is wrong character. I said that because he had the chance of movement and feeling like us the giant in this story. We know that before the giant helped these children, little boy, he was crying. But after the giant came to him, he didn't afraid of the giant like another children in the story. And the existence of this character is helping the guts of story. And for the next is a symbolism. I found several symbolism in this story. The first is children that symbolize happiness. We know that children is a time for us to play and get happiness. And the second is the seasons, which is symbolizes the time of the story. And the third is the giant, which is it symbolizes the human's mentality, which most of us think that we are able to live alone, but of course we need another people to help us in our life. And the fourth is the snow, which is which it is symbolizing the negative emotion of human. Okay, for the next we are talking about irony. Here there are two kinds of irony in this story: dramatic irony and situational irony. And for the first irony that I found in this story is dramatic irony. Uh, the dramatic irony here when the giant kick out the children who are playing in the garden. And for the next irony is situational irony. I found it in the last of story when the giant would choose to die and go to a better place with a little boy. Okay, for the next is about a conflict. In this story, I found there are two conflicts. The first is the giant versus the children. It was started when the giant built a big wall until the children cannot enter to the garden. And the second is the giant versus himself. It was started when he realized that he was too selfish until mid the autumn didn't want to give a spring session in his garden. And for the next is the theme. The theme of the story, the author wants you to learn that being selfish doesn't help you. You should learn to share and be nice to others. And it is proven in this text, where the giant says, "How I would like to see him." The author also forced that the little boy would return later in the story by saying, "But the little boy whom the giant loved was never seen again." So that the moral value of this story is uh, we have to share our happiness with another people. Maybe it can happen by helping them to do something or another. And because sometimes we will need another people helps. Because of that, we have to share our happiness with others. And maybe that's all what I can explain in this short story. And the last I say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.